Hey, good morning, everybody. I was laughing. I'm laughing because yesterday, I was just data dumping, and I just couldn't get off the internet. I just couldn't stop speaking. It was just like, ugh. And I was posting that article about OnlyFans, and if you delete your account permanently, can they recover it? And nothing is permanent. I swear on the internet, there's nothing permanent as far as any account deletion or anything. And so I'm like, oh, if you need to go and recover your account from OnlyFans, we could do it. We could show you how and do this, this, and this. And there's ways to do it. Like, okay. Because I go into the OnlyFans, like Google OnlyFans, and see how you could. They said, like, when you want to close your account, is everything deleted off? They said, yeah, everything is deleted. They tell you everything is deleted, everything is permanent, and you can use it whenever you want to, and no one's going to be the wiser, and you just use it for when you need to, and then if you want to let it go, then you let it go, and all that. And I'm like, They may say today, yes, is permanent, right? But tomorrow, there'll be a data breach. Tomorrow, well, not even that. They say that if you need to recover your account, you can recover your account. And so then I'm thinking about Epstein, right? What did Epstein do? He recorded every single thing. He had a flight log of who came to his island. He didn't have to wiretap because all he had was video. He was hanging out with like a Bill Gates type who probably is now regretting his association. Epstein was like a J. Edgar Hoover. Okay, so when you look at the evolution of wiretapping and surveillance and control, J. Edgar Hoover was the one that had the absolute power that corrupted absolutely. Okay, when you think about it. Then you have the CIA, you have the Epsteins doing the blackmail, the sexual blackmail on people. Now you have the internet. Now you have whatever you post. Your voluntary posting stuff, right? It could be used against you. And even if you go to sites like any of the sites out there's so many sites out there that people thought were going to be private. They thought were going to be under wraps. No one's going to know. What is it called? There was the one that I forget. And it was an Angie's list. Something kind of list. No, it wasn't really a list, but it was something where you can go and cheat on your husband or wife. And everything would be under wraps, right? They come to find out it's not. We have these girls that have been sexualized, okay? Like completely sexualized. And they're all hot to trot. Maybe their parents can afford college, maybe not. Maybe they need to make more money. The lure of making more money and using your body, especially if you're hot. And nowadays, many girls are really hot. The lure of making a little bit of money and thinking that you'll just do it for like a few months just to get a few subscribers and get some money at $7.99 a month, and you have like 100. That's like that's dollar signs. That's easy, just using your body, right? So you think that, okay, I'll just do it for a few months and then pay for a few expenses while I'm going to college, and then you'll just delete the account, right? You'll just delete the account. You really fucking believe that? You really think that anything, especially when you have subscribers and you're showing your body to strangers, weird positions, you think that's going to be deleted permanently? Now, if you don't do anything to make waves in our society, right? If you don't do anything to make waves in our society, it may not come up. You may have had an OnlyFans account 10 years ago. It won't come up until you do something that the system doesn't like. All of a sudden, what your account with OnlyFans are going to come up from a data breach. And all of a sudden, your shit's going to be on the dark web and then come up to the regular web. Okay? So anyone that thinks they're going to use OnlyFans just for a minute, just to get by, because the lure of the money, and they've been sexualized too in their family, because that's how nowadays everything works. Girls have to be hot, right? And they come out hot because of how the programming from the 1960s, 70s, and 80s translated into the offspring. And so what do these girls do? They do what's natural to them, right? It's like use her body, use her looks to get by, to get money and all that. Tapping into that part of them that they probably didn't know existed, but found a way to have it exist. And then if they do make waves or make a name for themselves in the future, and it could be 10 years in the future, all of a sudden that OnlyFans account comes out somewhere. You see, that's Epstein and J. Edgar Hoover electronically. That's why it's so funny nowadays, as you look at history, when you study history and you see how history gets translated into digital and everything is centralized. May not be with a person, right? Like a J. Edgar Hoover or even like George Bush, CIA, or even the 1%. Now everything's centralized into a digital database. And so this is where, if you're not like me, right, I have a lot to expose with the system, like a whole lot. The system painted me in a really bad way, and now 5 years later, I'm fighting back, and I'm fighting back hard. And I have a lot to expose about the medical holistic system, the reporters, the journalists, and all that stuff, and about academia and the university system, all the different lawyer stuff, and so I have a lot to say. I have a lot to expose, of which I'm doing very carefully and relatively under the radar on my personal Facebook account, maybe my one business account, and my YouTube account, and my website. And those that want to fuck with me out there are bringing new followers. But I'm keeping things relatively under wraps. The system has not found a way to really shut me up. Because I said stuff about my juvenile records. If you're using my juvenile records, that's against the law for any journalist to use my juvenile records against me of what I'm saying to shut me up. And that would then prove then all the different programming that was involved in the 1980s, 70s, 60s. Because where do kids learn that shit? Whatever it is. Not that I had a really bad juvenile record. It was just that, stuff. Okay. And so I'm in a very unique position. Because I don't have an OnlyFans account. I'm not using my body to get by out there. I've had my experiences out there, but, everybody does. But I'm not actively, purposely using my body as a way, like prostituting yourself, as a way to get ahead. I'm not doing that. I've been told that, hey, you could become a stripper if you want. Nothing's wrong with it. I had some adult tell me that a couple of years ago, or more than that, like 10, 15 years ago. Somebody that I sort of trusted. I did trust. Tell me that, yeah, there's nothing wrong with being a stripper. No, nothing wrong with being a stripper, except that that's the only thing you can do at some point. Maybe you can get away from it, but then that will always be in your past. If you've ever been a stripper for a certain amount of time, that will always be somewhere in your past. You can't get away from that. There is no way to come back from that. And maybe you can if you're under the radar. But as soon as you want to do something amazing and go above and beyond what you're doing today, and you discover something, and it could be counter culture or counter to the system, your stripper background, your OnlyFans account, all that shit will come back to bite you in the fucking ass. And so then you're forced to stay in those industries, or forced to stay under the radar, because somebody will use that against you. There'll be another data breach. That's how the system will control people, is through their urges. Just like they did to Bill Gates, just like they did to all the different politicians, Anthony Weiner, all the ones that had their different proclivities, couldn't control themselves. They were given so much allowance. Here, you can do this, you can do that. Like even Trump, hey, you can do this, you can do that. Made them think that they're above and beyond everything. And then when it's convenient, the system will bring out whatever it is that you did that you thought was like all kept between gentlemen or ladies. And that will be used against you. Not so much in a court of law because, I mean, unless it was something illegal, which is coming out with the Stormy Daniels and stuff with Trump. But it'll just come out, it'll come out just in an article from a journalist who's looking to persuade people in a specific way politically. And so, yeah, we have these kids from parents who think, oh yeah, everything's great. I'm going to go do this and I do that. And no one's going to know I'm doing this and doing that. No one's going to fucking know. Let me tell you, anything that you do sexual on the internet, someone's going to fucking know. And they're not going to only know, they're going to use it against you when it's convenient. Because that's how the system figured out how to control people. Because they knew that there's a lot of shame with sex, of course, because of how it was all developed. There's trauma to sex. To have a baby, there's got to be some kind of trauma. You have to do things. You have to be things. You have to be programmed and groomed to be married, to have children. Somebody's got to groom you into it. Who gets to be the one? With the parents or some stranger or somebody in the schoolyard. And you hope the parents do it clinically and not traumatize you. And you hope somebody in the schoolyard doesn't traumatize you. And you hope some stranger out there doesn't traumatize you. But a lot of cases they do. Girls get traumatized all the fucking time. And so that is what's being used as leverage. And so I'm just going to warn anyone out there with children. You let them know as they're going to college and they're fucking gorgeous and they know it and their parents exploit them for their looks, that if you go to any of these sites that are all about here, it'll just be private. No one's going to know. Just do it. It's okay. It can just delete the account. It'll be permanent. Nothing is ever permanent off the internet. It will stay. The internet is forever. And we have so many data centers. We're going to have a Google data center here in Ohio at some point, right in the middle of Ohio. A huge data center. Can you imagine every single thing that you've done, sexually or otherwise, on the internet, coming out to fucking haunt you 10 years later? That's about humans. They don't understand how shit will bite them in the ass 10 years later. Oh, they're all about now, today, validation today. Oh, I got to get the money today. I got to do this today. Everything's today. Everything's about love and love and sex. And here's my boobs. Here's everything. And then what happens when you start changing? You start maturing 10 years later. And you weren't who you were 10 years ago. And then you discover something amazing that may be in competition with someone who's a mover and shaker. And they do a background search and all your shit, and they find, oh shit. And you don't know who knows what and when and what. I'll tell you. That's how they're able to control people. That's what will control people in the future. And so, that didn't hit me until this morning. Because I was going through and figuring out what I was going to talk about today, because I was data dumping about the journalist yesterday. Like, I really just came off unglued about the journalist yesterday. And I was thinking about, why am I being so puritanical with the whole OnlyFans and girls and teenagers and college students using it? I come off like a jealous Gen Xer, wishing I had some body of a 25-year-old, and really, believe me, I don't. And the reason why I was really just coming off the way I was coming off was then I realized, because of my studying, J. Edgar Hoover, he was the fulcrum. He was the beginning of surveillance. He was the beginning of blackmailing people sexually. And then it became like the CIA, of course, all the wiretap. I mean, let me go to, what did I write? Because I knew there was a pattern. I knew it fit somewhere. I knew I was coming down hard on it for a reason, because I know what these girls are up against. Not only have they been sexualized by their parents and exploited by their parents, but also the boys in the schoolyard and the other girls. And then they're trying to find an outlet. They have all this sexual energy and they don't know how to, keep it under cover or under wraps. And so they're in college, but with a bunch of predators out there because there's boys that have been sexualized, and then they want to make money, make a lot of money, and do stuff. The temptation of doing an OnlyFans is going to be so easy. And parents don't have to know because it's on their phone. Oh, your parents don't have to know. You can delete it permanently at some point. Just do it for a couple months, right? You can see their friends saying that. And so then, what did I say? Remember J. Edgar Hoover and Epstein? Wiretapping, video surveillance, sexual blackmail. You think anything you do on the internet will be private? Think again. That will be used against you when it's convenient. See, people use my shit against me all the time just from what I did a couple of years ago, even with my dog, even 7 years ago. People are still going back to a lot of the old videos and laughing at them. I totally understand. Because remember, everything you do, you leave a digital footprint, but as long as you can articulate that was then, this is now, it's evolution, and it wasn't even that bad, saying, oh yeah, people are doing saltwater flushes. They were over there in East Africa. That's what someone was laughing at, that people are doing saltwater flushes once a year in East Africa, and I proved that. And someone had to laugh at it. So that's pretty benign. That's like nothing. Who cares? But imagine when you're showing your tits to somebody. Imagine you're doing split beavers to strangers on fucking, not on Facebook, but on OnlyFans, to straight out there stripping in the stripper places. And somebody finds out, take pictures, or they know that you were employed there, or there's a data breach and that comes out. You can't come back from that. I mean, you can try. Look at Paris Hilton. Now they're painting her as now like Mother Teresa. Her dog died of 20 years. Oh, she's a good mommy. That dog was very well taken care of. It lived a long time. So she used to be like an OnlyFans kind of person. Now she's turned into Mother Teresa because she has a child. You see how that shit works? You see how that shit works? All right. But if you're not like a Paris Hilton who has to influence people into doing certain things and have to have a certain picture painted, you think your mom and dad and everyone in your office is going to understand you doing that, and that coming out, it's all over the internet? Or your constituents, if you're a politician, or anything else that you're doing that you've discovered? See, when you put your tits out there and your crotch out there for everyone to see, you can't become a politician. You can't do anything but be a drone and stay under the radar. That's what these girls who are highly sexualized do not understand. Do not understand. And their parents don't understand. You know why? Because their parents do the same shit, but they do it in a different way. Because they were taught by their parents that were programmed by the system in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s. So these poor girls don't stand a chance when their parents don't even get it themselves. Which is why OnlyFans is right there to catch everyone that just is oblivious to how shit works. Doesn't know history. I mean, I'm laughing because it's like crazy. And so you think anything you do on the internet will be private? Think again. That will be used against you when it's convenient. When you start coming up in the world and you go against some powerful people, there could be a data breach. And all of your account activity will be out for somebody on the dark web, then on the regular web. Wake the fuck up, moms. Wake the fuck up, kids. Yeah, your daughter is beautiful, but believe me, if she can get away with using her body to get by, she will, if you don't freaking figure out that her looks are not everything. If she is that tempted to make more money because she wants more money and has friends out there that are doing stuff like rich friends and she wants to keep up with them, what do you think she's going to fucking do? How do you know that? Because look at what's going on. Already, these girls have been exploited already. Because they're coming out fucking gorgeous, skinny, gorgeous, looking like clones of beauty. Why do you think most girls out there almost look the same that are gorgeous? Because why are they so gorgeous? Because they've been sexualized. That's a grooming. Beautiful girls right now in this society have been groomed to be a specific way. Why do you think the boys are hot to trot after them? Look what happened with Anna Nicole Smith. When she was growing up and her mom would go to church. As she was growing up, she became more beautiful, right? And I guess in the movie, or in that documentary, she was saying, to her mom, look, there's all these guys behind us. And I remember when I was young, and I was going into 8th grade, I was cute. And I was a flirt. But of course, that was programmed into me. And when I was a volunteer for the hospital system, always the orderlies were always like going, ooh, she's so cute. Ooh, she's so beautiful. And I told my mom, well, why is everybody saying I'm beautiful, Mom? She's like, just say thank you and say, my mom thinks so too. Like, she told me how to deal with people saying that I was beautiful as a young girl. Orderlies at the hospital over there when I was a volunteer. Okay? So I can speak from experience. I understand sexualizing and grooming kids to be gorgeous. And so that's why the programming is so unmistakable, and you can see where that could take you. And you see how easy it is to use something like OnlyFans or any of these online sites where you can get quick money by guys who are so fucking hot to trot, who are predatory. That's what's freaking insane. OnlyFans. Yeah, it's the future. So it's not just that, if you don't make it and then you have OnlyFans to turn to, it's also a quick buck, and you think it's just going to be, temporary, and you can delete that account permanently. Nothing is deleted forever. Everything is saved. Again, Google and whatever has huge data centers to keep everyone's information, whatever they do, whatever they search for, everything that you do. I don't care what it is, what you search for, what you are attracted to, what you subscribe to, everything. Because even if you are not on social media, but you have subscriptions to certain accounts for whatever it is, you're going into certain career fields. You may be as respectable as possible, which is fine. But then there's other things out there that are compromised by people's health issues. And so you have health issues that will compromise you. Your sexual appetite will compromise you. You trying to go against the system could compromise you if you cannot articulate correctly what it is you're doing and why. Which then brings me to my next thing. This is why people are conspiracy theorists. This is why people distrust the media. This is why people have to know how to read their gut and understand people's intentions. This is why people cannot be so naive. This is also why people call you crazy, because you've had an experience they haven't had, and they will never ever understand where you're coming from until they go through it themselves. Which is why those who understand you are the people you entertain and hold close, because they can find things in their world to identify with and sit in your shoes. They get it. They don't have to experience everything you did, and they still understand. Those that don't imagine sitting in your shoes will assume their world is everybody's world. Do people think I don't know what it's like to be a parent? It doesn't matter, because I was a dog owner and a type of parent having to make the hard choices. Too many people have little regard for life, and they just breed life with absolutely no intention. I wouldn't be a dog parent again until the whole system changes. And so, too many people have little regard for life. They just breed life with absolutely no intention to keep it alive indefinitely, and it is disposable. Because the system forced you to make the life disposable until you take care of yourself. The system forced you to be a savior or Satan, and that's a losing venture. I also would not want to be a parent in this society right now. And so, yeah, I just blocked a journalist. And I don't care if you're good at telling stories. And so that's why you have to know how to speak for yourself. and know how to articulate why you do the things you do. Because whatever it is that you may have done in the past, even 5 years ago, you better fucking understand how you operate, how the world operates, how people are shaped, how everything is shaped to make you out to be something that if you can't explain why you do what you do, then you're going to feel so horrible and shitty. Some people don't survive being attacked by the vultures out there. Some people don't survive that because they can't even pinpoint why they do what they do. They just do it. They don't survive the court system. They don't survive the justice system. They don't survive even the court of public opinion. And that's why people commit suicide. Because they don't understand what fucking runs them. And they can't articulate. They can't explain it. And when someone else tries to tell their story, they don't say it in the right way. They can't. They have no idea what it's like to be in your shoes. And they're trying to do their job and get whatever payday they want. They can't possibly understand where you're fucking coming from. Because they're not you. And so, yeah, I just blocked a journalist the other day. I don't care if you're good at telling stories, because at this point, you're not going to tell the story to make the world a better place. Claiming on your resume or the biz account that you are trying to make the world a better place makes you a cliche. And so when I saw that lady that came through, I'm not going to say her name, I'm not going to say what station she came from, but she was right there in my suggested friends, right there in people you may know, and we know that's a stalking category. People who are stalking your page are right there in plain sight, and she came up several times, and I'm like, oh, who is this little wench here? And so I did a little research on her. I'm like, oh God, here we go. Another claiming she's going to save the fucking world and make the world a better fucking place. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And so that's why yesterday I data dumped a whole bunch and wrote so much about that journalist. Not her specifically, but journalists in general. And then about all the other stuff, about immunocompromised stuff and other stuff, right? And so then this morning, I'm kind of skipping around here, but this morning I was sweating in the middle of the night, sweating. And I was blowing my nose. So there's energy conversion going on. And then I couldn't really sleep because I was blowing my nose. That's when I wrote some stuff. And finally, after blowing my nose so much, I finally was able to go to sleep. And then this morning, so much poop came out, like so much. Because every time I would blow my nose, I would fart. Blow my nose, I would fart. So it kept pushing all that poop out. And that was all yesterday's information, all yesterday's trauma, right? All that data dump, all that stuff came out in my shit. And gave me another clarity of thought about then what OnlyFans is basically like a J. Edgar Hoover. OnlyFans and internet sex is like an Epstein, but in the digital artificial intelligence way. Artificial intelligence. And so now, after all of that data dumping and all that stuff, and then I wrote about the journalist that came through. Yeah, I blocked journalists. I guess I talked about journalism, yes. I talked about reporters or whatever, journalists, what they were doing back then, BuzzFeed and all that shit. But then I specifically blocked that journalist, like specifically. Like I actually went, even in my other account, and blocked her. Because when I looked at her face, I could see the smirk. I could see that, oh, I'm looking for a fucking ripe one I can go and suck the life out of. Like I actually stood in her shoes and felt what it was like to be in her shoes looking for a victim, looking for someone to go and suck the life out of, be a predator to. Oh, I sat and I didn't like sitting in her shoes. I absolutely did not like sitting in her shoes. And I know what runs her. I know what runs her station. I know what runs everything. And these reporters out there, they're looking to do investigative bullshit. And so claiming on your resume or biz account, you are trying to make the world a better place, makes you a fucking cliche. And I'm speaking directly to you. I'm not saying your name. I will not give you that press. I will not. But you know who you are because you know you can't see my shit anymore. And if you're in another account, or if I put this on YouTube, you'll know who I'm talking about, you, because I blocked you. And I did it intentionally to let you know, I know you're stalking my shit. So claiming on your resume or biz account, you are trying to make the world a better place makes you a cliche. The fact that you're owned by advertisers and corporate media says exactly the opposite. You will tell stories to sensationalize anything you want so you can get hits and clicks and readership. No different than those on fucking YouTube. They're ones that want to save the world from fucking salt and water and Jillian and save them from cabbage. Go donate to their Patreon account. So you could be saved from the water and the salt. But Jillian, if you keep doing this, how are you going to get your story out? I tell my story every single fucking day. I don't need someone to speak for me. If I'm in a court of law because of some major crime that I happen to be part of or was a witness to, then I'll hire a lawyer to speak for me because there's a lot of really intricate shit in the legal system. But if I'm just trying to tell my story, I don't need some vampire to tell my story for me. So I tell my story every single fucking day. Time will tell if the media wants to get it or they want to spin it. Right now, the media is looking for the lowest hanging fruit, especially investigative journalists. Because even the one that did that expose on that doctor that kept using his semen for all the infertile people and just doing that artificial insemination, but using his own sperm, and there's like 93 kids out there. Even though the reporter probably wasn't a victim, but it was black and white. There was a case, there was a crime that was committed. The justice wasn't what the victims wanted, but there was justice. Okay? And so that was easy for a reporter to capitalize on the victims and capitalize on the perpetrator. Okay? And really, who won? The reporter did. Who lost? Both. The victim and the perp. They didn't get what they wanted out of it. There was nothing gained for the perp and nothing gained for the victims. Because the victims, the outcome of the court case was like a $500 fine and something suspended. And yeah, okay, it's out there now. Embarrassment, public embarrassment. But that's pretty much it. Nobody won, but guess who won? The fucking reporter won. Because they made money off that goddamn story. You see how that shit works? So if you're looking for justice against somebody, and you think there's going to be all this, you have these illusions of grandeur that you're going to get either a major payday or they're going to have like 50 years in jail because you felt like that somebody did something so wrong and you have this pie in the sky of what justice should look like. If all these expectations, and then it finds out at the end, the system will rule accordingly, and you spilled your guts to everybody, and that reporter sensationalized the fuck out of everybody. Who won? The reporter did, not the victims or the perps. And so victims in our society, they will be exploited or would be victims. Perps, yeah, okay. Depends on statute of limitations and the degree of crimes being committed, but who wins? The lawyers. And who wins? The fucking reporters. So if you can't tell your own fucking story and you have someone speak for you, you deserve whatever you get. And I deserve whatever I got 7 years ago because I couldn't tell my own story enough for people to get it. So it took me 5 years to finally figure it out, but I am figuring it out now. So I tell my story every day. Right now, the media is looking for the lowest hanging fruit. It's too soon to slam me or support me in the media. It's only been 7 years, and then I evolved about 2 years ago from my original information. So I don't want anyone sniffing around me thinking they're going to scoop something. Because at this point, time is on our side. Journalists right now are fucking vultures. So either they're reporting on fires and traffic accidents and, obvious crimes like murders that then they go and follow the court case. But they're also looking for victims, would-be victims, and looking for someone that's different. So they can go find a way to turn them into a demon. Vampire. Again, even if they do a story, all they're doing is just piggybacking off of BuzzFeed, Newsweek, and Daily Mail, which is really unoriginal. That story's been told. Again, journalists, it is too soon to slam me or support me at this point. Why do I say support me? Because they'll come in and be like, yeah, I'm going to worm my way into Jillian's world and say, yeah, I'll tell your story. I'll say everything you need to say. I'll make everyone love you. And I have this great station and all these advertisers that are going to support this. And then I come to find out later, after the story's been written, that they fucking spun it completely opposite. No, I'm not playing. I know it's, see, and this is the thing we have to understand how business comes in. You have to understand station managers. You have to understand advertisers. And when you have a story that is counter culture, counter the whole fucking culture, and even counter the advertisers and even what the station stands for, as far as Rockefeller medicine and all that stuff, there's nobody coming in there and tell my story in the way that I want to be told. Fuck no, fuck you. Sorry. You ain't going to tell that story. And so you don't know enough to understand where I'm coming from, and I don't think you care given your education and background, or shall I say your biased education and your biased background, salivating at the thought to hang somebody. Again, I stood in that lady's shoes, looked at her right in the eyes on her page, and I saw the smirk. I saw the vampire in her. I saw it, and I was like, there's no fucking way I'm going to let her, I'm going to want to know that she's watching me. She can go through another account, her own personal account, that may have a different name or the same name. Who the fuck knows? I know her name. If I see her name, I'll still block her. But there ain't no fucking way I'm going to let you even look at my shit or you have me know that you're looking at my shit. I'll turn you into a troll where you have to go undercover and stalk people. Plus, your station director won't allow you to support me. Neither will your advertisers. Because that's your bread and butter. Hello. And you are a slave to your advertisers and your boss. You could give a shit about your readers, and you're not trying to make the world a better place. You are kept by the system and hungry for money and fame. I'm not as naive as you think I am. Oh, I learned my lessons. I learned my lesson at least 5 or 6 times 5 or 6 years ago. I had to learn that lesson over and over again because it kept biting me in the ass. Whenever they kept spinning the story. And I'm like, fuck, how do I get ahead of this? And that's when you saw me go through all these different court cases and all that shit. Well, 1 court case. Well, 2 court cases. But the second one, no one really knows about. So, but I still won that one because she never showed up. And so you are kept by the system and hungry for money and fame. I'm not as naive as you think I am. And I doubt you will risk your career for me, especially if you work so hard to get where you are today. You won't just throw it away on the Jilly Juice world, knowing how it's being positioned in Wikipedia and everywhere else. And again, you're owned by fucking Rockefeller Medicine, NBC or ABC or all the main ones. You really think you're going to fucking support me? Bullshit. No, you're looking to clamp on and suck the life out of me. Ain't going to fucking happen. So buzz off. We in the J world have plenty of time. But why convict them, Jillian? Because when I see them coming through under the profile of a journalist with the TV station advertised like a fucking tattoo on their forehead, you're transparent. You're not coming from the standpoint of an individual understanding another individual. Your job, what you think is your status because you're a journalist, is what is going to drive your intentions. Transparent yet again. You're not slick and you're not investigative. You're like an ambulance chaser. A fucking ambulance chaser. And I'm not the one. That's fucking transparent yet again. I'm reading this because I want to make sure I don't leave anything out. And what is an ambulance chaser? A lawyer who specializes in bringing cases seeking damages for personal injury. And so journalists think that they are like judge, jury, and executioner. They will convict you all to hell and then watch the fallout. They'll just watch the whole world burn, and they are getting all this money for it, right? That's what drives journalists, is the money, the power, the fame, and they don't care who they fucking hurt or they don't care about their readers at all. They really don't care. They pretend to. They pretend to care about their readers, but they really don't fucking care about their readers. They want to see them react. They want to see all that reaction because all that reaction is money to them. And so again, journalists, like these type of journalists are sniffing around me, tabloid vampires, vultures. So why do I sound so bitter and angry? I'm really not. But journalists don't care about due process or the justice system. When they get a scoop on a story they know is going to sensationalize the world, they will immediately convict a person with the way they use the words. Yeah, you can be a journalist reporting traffic issues, fires, and court cases. Investigative journalists looking to make a name for themselves will sacrifice anyone, even their firstborn, to get ahead. And I'm pretty sure that they will sacrifice their own kids to get ahead, if they can. All they have to do is paint an emotional picture and capitalize on people's suffering and find a way to lay blame out there on the person they're writing the story about. And they will use one-sided arguments and appeal to the uneducated, the ignorant, and the highly triggered, and obviously the traumatized. That's why many journalists are low-hanging fruit, and they appeal to the low-hanging fruit. And when people look at these journalists as gods, they know who their audiences are. The journalists are just like their audience. Birds of a feather flock to fucking together. And so just remember, the system can change if it wants to. The people in the system can also change if they want to. There is no crime in questioning the system as it stands right now, because you choose to participate in it or not. If I have not been convicted of a crime in a court of law, and I'm abiding by all the rules and laws in my society, purposely coming after me could break your career. Because you'll be an accomplice to the system that is in destruction as we are speaking right now. Scaring people away from food, and you are not making the world a better place. If anything, you're doing exactly the opposite. Figure out which side of history you want to be on, journalists sniffing around me. Right now in this environment, if anyone is doing an expose on Jilly Juice World, will have nefarious intentions, especially if you are established in your career, part of the mainstream outlet. Indie people, like independent documentaries, have not completely extricated themselves from the conspiracy world. So they will use my information as an addendum to their agenda and spin it relative to what they're trying to sell. I was approached by someone in the anti-V world, wanted to use my information about the Hydra. And then they're pulling out those different clots and then say, look, they're putting Hydra. Not necessarily. Because when you raise the temperature and have the particle acceleration, and you already have so much Hydra in your body because you are all Hydra, 69 trillion of them, you're going to have clots and people who don't know how to release the demons. I wasn't going to let him spin it that way. I wasn't going to be a part of that independent documentarist with an angle. That's why I extricated myself from the anti-V world. Because then they will promote all of their pills, powders, supplements, detoxes, herbs and extracts, and rife machines, and everything else under the fucking sun. And so I don't even entertain the indie artists out there because they have an agenda. I literally have to be on my own, stand on my own. Finding someone completely unbiased away from the conspiracy world and mainstream media will be virtually impossible because everything will be speculation and hearsay. And Google that. Speculation and hearsay. Speculate what went wrong and why it went wrong, and then someone rumored to say this, this, and that. That was all the articles 5 years ago. Speculation and hearsay, but they used the words to basically convict me. That's why all the fucking backlash. Because the readers don't understand how shit works as far as journalists. And so at this point, it's too soon for anything. I just can't wait until I'm over 50. All right, I'm 49 years old. But there's a lot of 49-year-olds that look really great and you don't know what they had done. They're definitely not in the Jilly world. Okay? And so I got to wait many years for somebody to finally be like, well, okay, I see where she's coming from now, because they know people could, like the government watches my bank account. They know what I spend my money on. I'm not getting any Botox or plastic surgery or using anything to make me look good on the outside. But I'll tell you, last night, if I hadn't opened up my system and blew my nose, I would have been either stuffed up or taken something, if I was in the mainstream out there, or alternative mainstream, using herbs and extracts, maybe find some relief, but then when the climate shifts again, all that stuff comes back. But even then, I can't, there's nothing that will work. I could die from cancer, disease, and chronic illness, or a heart attack, or a stroke. So the fact that I opened up my system and released those demons gave me another chance at life. I didn't develop another colony working against me over time. That's what it's going to fucking take. Okay? And so, yeah, when you keep mucus and demons inside of you, when you think about it, over time, it ages the fuck out of you, and it turns into diagnosable conditions and potentially even death. Because your body can't get rid of it. It clogs up your arteries and capillaries and makes your infrastructure weaker. And you're looking at that in the population. And so, Jilly Juice world, if you don't learn how to speak for yourself and become an advocate for yourself, someone else will speak for you and write for you and tell your story and fuck it up for their payday. That's why you have to learn how to speak and write for yourself and not for somebody else. Because inevitably, somebody else will write and speak for you and possess you like a demon. Okay? And so, yeah, anytime that you feel like you've been a victim of something, or you're a perp, you have to find someone who's the best demon possessor, the best possessor of people, that can take words and spin it so hard to your direction. And they are expensive. Lawyers and journalists who can really spin it to your direction are expensive. Well, they weren't expensive for the people telling stuff to BuzzFeed 5 years ago. Oh, it costs those people that used BuzzFeed. It costs them, because look where they are today. They're going to have to deal with all this climate change and all their predisposed issues. They're afraid of food. They can't eat the food. Or they have neurological issues in their family that they're going to eventually have to deal with. They're not going to want to release the demons. They're not going to want to eat the food. They're not going to want to feel anything. And they have children. Oh, believe me, BuzzFeed cost a lot of people their lives. BuzzFeed, seriously, cost people so many people's lives because of what they did to me and what they continue to do to people out there who are looking for something else besides the same shit out there. Oh, so yeah, it'll cost you in many different ways when you have somebody else speak for you and tell your story, either money or your life, literally and figuratively. And so in my world, I have come to find out that no one can really tell my story like me. And so there are stories that reporters do because they can identify and empathize with the victims because it's pretty black and white. Crimes were or were not committed, but justice is relative. The victims don't think that the justice served was the justice deserved. In a lot of cases, no crimes were committed, but the reporter was just looking for a payday and to bleed the victims of the perceived victims or the perceived victims dry while sucking the life out of the person they were writing about. And so again, who's the winner? It's the reporter, not the perp or the victim. The reporter and the lawyers make out like fucking bandits. And they look for someone to capitalize. They look for victims. And so when I stood in the shoes of that reporter that was stalking my page, I saw the vampire in her. I saw it in her. I saw the smirk in her smile. Like, yeah, who's next? Who's my next victim? And so I see right through that bullshit. Which is why it's very difficult to trust reporters, because they will filter their story through their own trauma and intolerance and lack of experience, and then fill in the gaps with their made-up world, thus turning your story into a grocery store rag. In my world, no crimes were ever committed, and I'm questioning the whole fucking system. So nobody can tell my story because most people are already invested in the system as it stands. So then I have to learn how to tell my story and develop immunological defenses against the demons out there who are looking to possess me and my story. Not gonna fucking happen. Even those that were next to me were trying to possess me and spin the story to their direction. I mean, possession can happen very easily when you allow it to. So many people were trying to possess the J world and, yeah, spin it to their direction, to their intentions. And you saw what I had to do to fight to keep my story and my J world as evolutionary as possible. That was the fight the last 7 fucking years, was keeping to the whole point of evolution. That, yeah, you can change your mind, you can change anything. So as long as you can justify why you're doing it. And it makes sense in science. All right? And so, yeah, I just think now this world is so interesting. And when you finally learn how to speak about yourself and about the world out there, sky's the fucking limit. Everything is on the table. Nothing is off the table. And then you could recognize the vampires out there. You could recognize the toxic, parasitic people out there, and you call them for what they are. And they will show you their colors if you let them, but you don't want to see all their colors all the time because it'll be so bright they can destroy you. And so then you have to learn how to put down boundaries. Okay? And so, what did I say about extremes? If you don't find a middle ground somewhere, being so smart will turn you extremely ignorant at some point. Don't let the extreme of one end let the other take over. And so we have a lot of people who've been bred to be extremely smart. Like you're seeing these kids getting 5 degrees at 10 years old, graduated high school and college at 5 years old. I know I'm exaggerating there. So they're extremely smart, but eventually when that burns out, when that candle burns out, when that star burns out, it will be quite the opposite if they even survive. But the system will have to work very quickly to take out the resources from their brain to then move society forward. And we thank them for their service. So remember, just because you're so smart, if you're not releasing demons and taking a rest and just chilling out for a minute, you will become extremely dumb and extremely ignorant. Because remember, when you go from one extreme to the other and you don't understand middle ground, that's what will happen. And so I always have to question everything I say and make sure I'm understanding both sides of an issue or all sides of an issue. And I don't target anyone. I don't defame anyone. And I'm not playing the same game that the system has played for many fucking years, because it's about changing. But how do you change? How do you introduce change without going personal to people? Well, you don't, because you know most people out there practice the same way of doing things. Whether it's in the medical holistic, whether it's in psychotherapy, whether it's in surveillance, whether it's in journalism or, in the legal system. You can speak now to all of them without actually targeting a specific person. And so I figured out how to speak to people without speaking to them personally. And then other people who also share the same characteristics and the same career field will also get it too. And then everyone's like thinking, oh, Jillian's talking about me, she's talking about me, she's talking about me. Yeah, all of you clones. I will hear the cacophony of, she's talking about me. Like those mirrors that you see yourself, or those 50-way mirrors. Yeah, I'm talking about all of you. Because you're all fucking clones. All right. Have a good day. Bye.